Hello, hello. Thank you for tuning into Cosmic Co TV. I am Cosmic Co, aka Corian, metaphysical life coach, intuitive reader, astrologer, creative director, all of the things. And today I want to share a few tips and tricks for how you can become a better reader when reading for yourself. Let's get into it. One of my main goals and passions is helping people connect with their own intuition and building the trust and the communication there so they can learn how to listen to themselves and practice discernment in their own lives. One of the ways in which you can be your own intuitive, you should be your own intuitive, or you can at least begin to practice that for yourself, is by reading for yourself. There are many divination practices. Choose one that resonates for you, with you, but today I'm talking specifically to tarot and oracle card readers, although some of these tips can be useful for any other divination type. Starting off with tip number one is to be intentional. Be intentional. Anytime you are sitting down and you're trying to do any sort of divination, any sort of connection with spirit, whether it be literal divination, whether it be meditation, whether it be journaling, be intentional. That is rule number one for any and everything in life. Do it with intention. If you're going to do anything at all, do it with intention. Starting off, one of the first ways you can be intentional is by knowing who you are speaking to, knowing who or what you are trying to connect to. Intuition is a limitless thing. Intuition is not just your own intuition or spiritual connection, but it is the spiritual connection between all human beings, all life forces, all spirits in the universe. And messages and guidance can come in many different ways, many different forms. So if you are sitting down and you're preparing to do a reading, you can do a reading to get guidance from your divine ancestors. You can do a reading to get guidance from your higher self. You can do a reading to connect with your spirit team. You can do a reading to connect with your inner child. You can do a reading to connect with your shadow self. So that is the first way in which you should. That is the first way in which you should be intentional with reading for yourself. Who is it that you're trying to speak to? Are you trying to connect with your divine ancestors? Are you trying to connect with your higher self? Are you trying to connect with your inner child, your shadow self? What is it that you are seeking in this moment? Who is it that you are seeking in this moment? And that also kind of goes into the next thing. Be specific. Ask questions, right? That's a huge part of being intentional. First being, who are you connecting with? Who are you connecting to, and why? Are you seeking guidance about your future? Are you seeking guidance to help honor and venerate your lineage better? Are you seeking guidance to help yourself in your healing, in your shadow work? What is it that you are trying to receive from this moment? Are you just looking for reassurance? Are you looking for affirmation? Are you looking for connection? Is it that you are feeling uncertain and you want to know what your next step is? Is it that you want to know more about yourself, your purpose, your spirituality in this lifetime? The opportunities are endless. Be intentional. Who am I connecting with and why? Because those two things are very important. And the answers could or might be different depending on how you pair those things up. Because depending on the question, depends on who I would speak to or what I would speak to. If I'm speaking on healing generational curses or removing generational blocks, then I might want to speak to my divine ancestors. I might want to connect with them to see what it is that they experienced, what their struggles were, and what their strengths were, to help me call on them in this lifetime, or to help me honor them or show up for them in the ways that they need. If I want to learn more about my purpose, I might talk to my spirit team. I might talk to my higher self. I could even talk to my inner child and try to get perspective on why I'm here or why I feel I'm here, what my talents and my gifts are. If I want to learn more about what the next steps are or where I'm currently at in my life, I would talk to my spirit team. I would talk to my higher self. If I am doing healing and shadow work, then I would probably talk to my shadow self or my inner child. I might even talk to my higher self. You get what I'm saying? Like, depending on your intention, depends on who you should speak to. Depending on your question, depends on who you should speak to. Or one of the next ways that you can and should be intentional when practicing divination for yourself, when reading tarot or oracle for yourself specifically, is being intentional with what deck you use. 444 on the clock, okay? Choose a deck and use a deck that aligns with your intention. So for me, if I'm doing a personal reading for myself, then it's most likely that I am going to use my Tarot in Wonderland deck. Why would I use this for myself? Well, for one, Alice in Wonderland is something that I know, right? I know the story. I'm familiar with the characters. I know what the symbolism is. It means to me personally, and I strongly connect with it. Now, this is a tarot deck, so of course the cards still have their own meanings, but this is something that I personally connect with. It's personal to me. That is why I would use it. If I was doing a reading to learn about my spirit team, right, who is on my spirit team or whatever, then I have other decks. I might use my Keepers of the Light deck, which represent the Ascended Masters. I might use my Angels and Ancestors deck, which represents these different archetypes. Tailor your reading in alignment with your deck. Be intentional with whatever deck you are using. If I wanted to do a love reading, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't use this. I would not use this deck. I would use my Light Seers deck. It is a more clear-cut deck to use versus this is full of convoluted meanings and messages, right? This is not a very romantic deck, so I might not use this for a love reading. So on and so forth. If there are certain questions that I have, or if I want to know more about where I am at, I would probably lean more to a oracle deck versus a tarot deck. If I have a lot of questions and I'm really wanting to dive deep, then I'm definitely going to use a tarot deck, but I might still pair it with an oracle deck. Be intentional. Be intentional. Be intentional. It can look so many different ways, but be intentional. My next recommendation to help you become a better reader for yourself, or to elevate your readings in general, is to speak out loud or utilize a journal. Okay, I say that because you should always practice awareness when doing a reading, but I know from own personal experience, I am guilty that sometimes we can become frustrated, or we can become desperate, and we're looking for answers in the moment. So it's like, let me pull out my deck, let me get answers. But when you're doing it from that sort of headspace, you're not always the most aware and the most intentional, and you should not be aimlessly communicating or utilizing your resources in that way. So one thing that I like to practice when reading for myself is speaking out loud. So as I'm asking the question, or as I'm preparing for the reading, I'm taking note of who it is that I'm trying to speak to, what it is that I'm trying to speak to, what energy source I'm trying to connect with, and what my intentions are. And then I move forward, and with every question asked, I take note of what comes out and what that means to me, or how I am perceiving it in that moment. So if I was pulling cards right now and the Three of Swords came out, well, okay, Spirit, the Three of Swords came out to represent my current energy. I'm not exactly sure how I relate to this in this moment, but I can understand, because the affirmation of this card is every day I'm healing. So yes, I do feel like I'm in a space of healing, or I do feel like that I am doing some self-work and some self-nurturing and some self-love to heal from the hurt right now. So if that was happening within a reading, that is kind of how I would speak out loud to, one, communicate back to myself, my spirit team, my higher self, whoever it is that I'm connecting with, that, hey, I see what you have given me, and I want to clarify that this is what I received from it. It's just like having a conversation. Tarot, divination, oracle cards, whatever it is that you utilize, is having a conversation with spirit. It wouldn't be a one-sided conversation. You wouldn't just allow them to talk and not speak back. So, hey, you said this to me. This is how I perceived it. This is how I see it. Is that right or is that wrong? Let me ask for further clarification. Let me ask my next question. And I can do that via speaking out loud. And if I'm speaking out loud, sometimes I do like to record it, or by me journaling and taking notes. So Practicing awareness. Like I said, it is a conversation, it is communication, and you would not sit in a one-sided communication with anyone. So don't do it to your spirit team, to your higher self, to source, to God, to whatever it is that you're choosing to communicate with. Give it your full attention. And like I said, it can be so easy to do it, to jump into a reading from desperation and needing clarity and feeling frustrated. Take a moment, ground, breathe, meditate before you move into doing a reading. And that's really as simple as like having respect for who you're talking to, having respect for the honor and ceremony and ritual that divination is. It is a ritual. It is sacred. Treat it as such. Last but not least, feel free and please utilize the books, the resources, the tools that come with whatever deck you are using. Do not feel like you need to know it all. Do not feel like you need to rely solely on your intuition when completing readings specifically for yourself, because sometimes it can be difficult to be unbiased when reading for ourselves, and what we need is the most unbiased perspective in this moment, which is why we tend to seek out others so that we can get the most unbiased perspective. But like I said, if you cannot rely on anything else, you should be able to rely on your own intuition. And we have to build the intuition as the tool, as the skill, as the talent that it is. And there's no other way to do that other than using it. And reading for yourself is one way to use it. So don't feel like you need to know it all. Don't feel like you need to rely solely on your intuition or whatever visions or messages you're hearing for yourself. If the Ten of Swords came out, let me open up the book and let me remind myself what the Ten of Swords is. Let me see what this deck specifically says about the Ten of Swords, because that's also another thing. When you're being intentional with your deck, oftentimes there are messages and guidance specifically for this deck, for this depiction that your spirit team, that your higher self, that your inner child wants you to see in that moment. Like, yes, I might know what this card means, but there is a word, there's a sentence, there's a saying, there's an affirmation within this book that my spirit team wants me to read, wants me to see in this moment. Feel free to utilize the resources that come. Also, 9 times out of 10, your decks have spreads within them. Utilize your spreads, and this kind of goes back to the having specific questions in mind. It can sometimes be easy when reading for others to trust your intuition to lead you and to just ask questions as they may come up, or to not utilize specific spreads. When reading for yourself, you need, I don't want to say restriction, but you need restriction. You need to be clear and concise. You need to have clear boundaries almost, because any and everything can be misinterpreted. And I don't want to say misinterpreted, but like I said, it's so easy for you to be biased when speaking for and from yourself. It can be easy to miss something, to misinterpret something, to misunderstand something, or for communication to be warped. So you need to be clear and concise. Spirit, I am doing this spread. I am asking these questions. I am only accepting cards that come out one at a time. I am looking for 3 cards for this answer. Like, lay it all out. Be specific. Clarify. 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 So that is all that I have for y'all today. I thank you for tuning in. Do not forget to check out the description bar below for more information. Yeah, my phone literally died here, but somehow it was still recording. You know what I was going to say. It's all love, light beams.